Hey homeschool friends, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to my fall reflections video. That's what I'm going to call this. And so the fall was tough. It was a bit tough, but the break was really helpful for me to kind of process it all. And now I have some things I want to share with you. So grab like a warm beverage or a snack or something and settle in, because I'm guessing this is going to be a bit of a chatty video. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to the channel. Welcome back. So you guys, I almost didn't make this video. Usually I film like a mid-year update video, like how's everything going? Which is what this video is going to be about. But honestly, this year, I feel like I've just been down and burnt out on life. And that's just kind of like spilled over into homeschool. And on top of that, I feel like things are changing. My kids are getting older, right? And so the struggles of like preschoolers are different than the struggles of preteens. And it's fine, it's just different, and it takes a different amount of energy from me. And I'm adjusting and they're adjusting. But in a way, it's also been probably my sweetest semester, or at least maybe the end of it has been, because it's kind of pushed me into a different mindset. A mindset of just really holding my homeschool with a little bit more open hands, maybe being more dependent on God, really wrestling with kind of what I control and what I don't control as my kids get older. And I think I'm in a healthier spot. I hope I am. I hope this perspective can really help me this upcoming semester. But I do want to chat through the semester. I want to think about it and reflect upon it because it's really helpful. It's helpful for making good and wise decisions this upcoming spring semester, but also good and wise decisions for next year, which we're getting into that season. I think I'll be sharing more of that on here than I have in the past, just kind of how I go about it. And so my plan for this video is to really assess kind of my kids' learning as well as the curriculum I picked. Is it working? Are we struggling with it? Or did it not work and we stopped using it? And so I think I will structure this as a subject by subject instead of kid by kid. And we'll just go from there. Maybe we'll start with math. Let's start with math. Math was probably our hardest subject for a variety of reasons. And so we use Saxon for my bigger kids. So Saxon 5.4 and Saxon 6.5 for my 10, almost 11-year-old, as well as my 9-year-old. And then I'm using Abeka, Arithmetic 1, for my first graders. So those are the two programs we're using. Let's start with Saxon. If I were to put this in a category, this would be in the struggling category. Not the struggling like we're going to give it up, but struggling like we have to make adjustments to make this work. And probably more so for my daughter than my son, but there's also some stuff we're doing for him. So we use Saxon plus Nicole, the math lady. So that's important. We do not use the grading. We just use the videos, and then I do the grading, and then I do the reteaching. And it definitely gives me a touch point in what my kids understand and where they're at. So I don't know if any of you feel this way about math, but I feel like of all the subjects, I feel the most hesitant to switch math programs. Mostly because of gaps and the fact that it's such a like layered learning, as opposed to like history or something like that. It's like math, you just build on each other. And every program has different sequences. And honestly, in my head, like math is math. Even if like, say my kids like push up against a subject, they're still gonna have to learn 3-digit multiplication, whether they're doing Saxon or whether they're doing like math with confidence or something. Like it has to be taught. And so it's hard to discern sometimes between like, is it a program thing or is it just a math thing? And math is hard. And I'm still landing in it's just a math thing and math is hard and we just need to figure out how best to teach the material. And a lot of that's coming from me. It's coming from me just to come alongside them and like reteach stuff or take the teaching for a while and then have them go back to the videos. Because my daughter, my 9-year-old, was really struggling this fall. We've done a couple things. The biggest one is probably math facts. She started using the drill team program through Nicole, the math lady, and it's been a really good help, and I feel like that's helped a lot. For her though, I also have to do kind of like daily reminders, almost like affirmations, math affirmations. Like I'd be like, make sure you really slow down. Make sure you read every word. She's my kiddo that skims and just assumes she knows stuff or doesn't want to tell me if she doesn't know words. So she'll just kind of play it cool and she just doesn't understand like a word problem or something like that. And then when I sit with her and make her read it word by word, she gets it just fine, right? I don't think this is unique to my daughter. I just know that this is a struggle for her. So some of the things I'm always telling her is to be like, slow down, read every word. And then I tell her, her rule number 1 is she's not allowed to do mental math. because she's also my kiddo who wants to go fast, who wants to cut corners. Say it's a problem like 27 minus n equals 16 or something like that. She'll just try and like math it out instead of like rearrange it and subtract it. And so that helps if I just remind her of all these things before she starts. She also needs a quiet room, and we've done kind of like a candle, which makes it more special. We're trying anything we can. Honestly, we got in a good routine at the end of the fall semester, and then starting back up has been so hard. I feel like she forgot it all, but it's okay. We just need to get her back into the habit of these things. And I do like Saxon because of the mixed practice. It just kind of keeps everything spiraling back, and then she'll like see it again, and she'll miss it completely for a bit, and then she'll remember that she knows how to do it. So that's some math. My son was 6'5". His problem is he gets a little frustrated with Nicole, the math lady, and it's fine, and I understand it. Like, he really wants to switch to another online program, which is always an option. Like, I'm never going to just like shut that down. If we need to, we need to, but I'd rather try to adjust what we have and teach him that we don't want to make emotional decisions, because he gets so upset about where we're at or what we're learning, and he's just like, I can't understand her, I want to switch. And it's like, well, at this point you're making an emotional decision, you know what I mean? And so we're trying to kind of assess that. It's just challenging. It's challenging in my world because my kids are so tight in age that if one of my children, say one of my bigger kids, needs more help with math that day, like they're going to pieces, everything gets pushed back, because then my twins have to wait on me because they can't do anything themselves. And so it is what it is. It's my situation, it's my family, and it's fine. It's just challenging. So the other math curriculum we are using is Abeka, Arithmetic 1. This is working. There's really not more to say other than I've gotten better at skimming the instructions, because the Abeka instruction guides are ridiculous sometimes. There's just too much. And so if I just kind of look through it and be like, okay, we'll review this, review that, and here's the main teaching concept, I can do that fairly quickly. We can bring out whatever flashcards or manipulatives we need, but not all of them. And then it's reinforced with the workbooks, and they're doing fine. So this is a huge hit. I really like the Abeka approach, especially for these younger years. I've heard the upper years aren't as good, but I think we would wait to switch them until they got to this level, whether that's 3rd grade or 4th grade. Language arts. Let's just do language arts because that has the most moving parts. So I will try to stay organized and clear in this video with the programs we're using. So let's start with phonics. So my kiddos that are still learning to read, my 1st graders, are using Abeka Language Arts 1. You guys, I love this program. It's been the only program that has taught my kids to read, all 4 of them. And well, I guess my 1st graders aren't quite reading, but they're progressing so well. And I've learned a lot about teaching phonics. It's just a lot of pacing. That's what I've learned with phonics teaching over the years, is you really have to pay attention to what your kids need, especially in phonics, and never push past where they're at. And I feel like I'm able to do that and adjust really well with the Abeka program right now. Like, for instance, I'm using it with my 1st graders, and I'd say the last like 10 lessons or so we've done at half speed, because I noticed when we were reading their readers that they were struggling a little bit. And so we started doing 1 lesson over 2 days and taking more time with the readers. And now we're in a much better place. They're going faster, that it's clicking, they're liking it more. They're not pushing back in frustration. And so I know that maybe we can pick it back up to 1 lesson a day instead of half lesson and keep going. And if we need to slow back down, we can. And so I'm honestly so confident that this is going to work and keep working, that I think I'm going to be selling all of my All About Reading materials. I have so much stuff to sell that I've been just holding on to just in case they needed it. But I don't think they're going to be needing it. They're doing really well, and I don't see that changing, because I feel like this initial hump is probably the hardest, right? The learning to blend, the learning the long sounds, short sounds. Now, they're not perfect at it by any means, but they're progressing in those skills, and it's definitely there. So I think we're good. You guys, this is probably my biggest success, like any homeschooler. I feel so proud of myself for teaching my kids to read. But that's the first thing I wanted to talk about language arts wise. Next, let's talk about spelling, because that's another struggle subject in my house, is spelling. So we've used this year 2 primary programs, Logic of English, as well as All About Spelling. So Logic of English, we took a break from in the fall. So I would say when it comes to just zooming in and talking about the spelling for this program, we were struggling. There just wasn't enough. There wasn't enough work on the spelling. Like, I feel like we would get our words, we would do the spelling analysis, which would be good. My son did appreciate some of like the finger spelling and things like that. But I felt like it wasn't being utilized enough and it wasn't being retained. And I wasn't able to bring it out in other areas, which I think was needed. And I think really would have helped us be more successful in the spelling aspect of this program. We just kind of got bogged down by some of the rest of it. And it became too heavy of a program for my son, for myself this past fall. And so we put it down, but I would not put this in the category of like, was not working. I would put this in the category of we were struggling, and for other reasons, we ended up switching. And I think that's just a lesson in homeschooling, right? Because I've learned sometimes I have to put aside programs that I love, that I believe in, that I think would work, because I can't physically lift it. I can't make it happen. It's too teacher intensive in this current season. My daughter, though, was doing all about spelling from the beginning. After last year's The Good and the Beautiful, she did not do well with that spelling, so I knew we were going to tackle all about spelling. For her, we started in level 1, and she has since progressed to level 2, and she's doing great. And my son has also just started doing level 2, maybe in like November, December sometime. He's also doing great. There is something about this program that really clicks for my kids. I don't know if it's like the tile work. They don't really use the tiles all the time. Sometimes they do. A lot of the times they just use a whiteboard and a marker. What I do like is I like the repetition. So at the beginning of every lesson, there's like a big review. A review of all the previous words that are still kind of being worked on, as well as sometimes the mastered words. So we're just constantly reviewing. There's also good dictation. There's just good teaching in here. And so both my kids are doing all about spelling. My son's a little bit ahead of my daughter and might be going a little faster because some of this stuff is definitely review from what he has previously learned in Logic of English. So it's good. Spelling's hard. That is like the subject on our standardized test that both of these kids score the lowest on. So I know it has to be an important part of our day, even if this is still very teacher intensive. So that might have thrown you, like where I complain about the teacher intensiveness of this, but it's the whole program that was a lot. This is teacher intensive in one subject, which just might seem like small potatoes, but it helped a lot. So that's spelling. This is working. That's a huge, huge thumbs up for All About Spelling this year. All right, the next big subject. The big subject that has a lot of curriculum because we did a lot of switching for the fall semester was writing or composition. I started my son out in IEW. I have a lot of good things to say about this program, but as we've been removed from it for a number of months, I don't think we'll be going back. At first, I thought we were going to go back and maybe like feather it in and bring it back. It did what I needed it to do for my son, who was having a tough time organizing his brain and organizing what he needed to write. So we did like, I think the first 7 or 8 weeks, something like that. So not significantly far into the program. He did a lot of the keyword outlining. He was able to practice a lot of the things that were causing a bit of a mental block. Stuff like having to have it perfect. And I love this program for saying like, this is your kind of sloppy copy. You're going to write it in pen so you can't erase as you go. You're going to give yourself lots of space so you can edit it. I loved that. I love the idea also of giving him some stuff to work with to practice that skill. So those like source text, right? So all of that is really good. I feel like he got a little bored after about 7 or 8 weeks. He's like, we're just doing the same thing. Even though it would teach a little bit here, a little bit there. And there were some parts of it that just drove me a little bit nuts and were driving him nuts. It was the forcing of certain words into his writing. And it never went well. And he always did it badly and it always frustrated him. And so I would be like editing and he's like, Mom, I had to do that. And I was like, oh, sorry, and so those like dress ups or whatever were not my favorite. I knew I was hesitant going into the program because of that. And so we put it aside and hoped that we had gotten what we needed out of it. And honestly, I would say we have. So this is a no. We're not coming back to it. I'm going to sell everything I have. So if anybody's in need of some cheap EW stuff, let me know. But the other thing, before we get to what is working, which if you follow my channel, you know, but the other writing curriculum we were using was for my daughter, and that was The Good and the Beautiful Level 4. So this covers a lot of subjects, right? This is The Good and the Beautiful. It covers a lot. And this was the first year that was a little bit more independent. And there's some great things about this program, which I'll cover in other sections of language arts. But the composition was not my favorite. Like, she was really struggling with the assignments. She was really struggling to like make all these summaries based on her reading. It just didn't give her enough. It kind of just kept circling back to like sensory words and descriptive words. And she's like, I understand that, but how do I write the sentences? How do I structure the paragraphs? And it just was something she wasn't able to get much out of that. And so I would be working with her and she would be really frustrated. And so we just dropped that aspect of The Good and the Beautiful. So as you can see, we're not doing spelling, we're not doing writing for this. So we're still doing some of it though. So hold tight on that. So those were 2 no's that we are dropping for composition. But what we switched to, I really like. And it's something we've used before, so we are a repeat user of Sonlight Language Arts. But I'm really happy with where my kids are and where that ties into the expectations of the writing assignments in this program. And I love how a lot of times it's just like a little bit of writing, or it's like a whole research project that takes like 6 weeks or whatever it was. And sometimes it asks for like a finished final product. Other times it's like, no, just want a rough draft. Just get to rough draft, but work your way through kind of your brainstorming and your outlining and what you would include in said paper. And so sometimes he does great. Other times he struggles. And initially I had my daughter in this program too, but it was just a little bit much for her. But the good thing about the fact that we are a Sonlight family is I still have Language Arts 4. And Language Arts 4 and Language Arts D are very similar, but there's a few things that are different. This is still just doing copywork and not dictation, and she is just more comfortable with that. And some of the projects were just a little bit toned down. Like there wasn't a big research project at the end of the fall semester. It's just been a little less, and it's been good for her to work through skills. So she's actually building some skills, and I felt like with The Good and the Beautiful, and I know maybe I just needed to like finish the program out, but I felt like this is giving her like stepwise little skills at a time, and she's rolling that all together, as where The Good and the Beautiful wasn't. Oh my gosh, you guys, I've gone back and forth on writing, but that's okay. They're still pretty young. We have a lot of years, so I'm not like stressed about it. I just want to find something that they feel confident, that they're able to pull out kind of their inner writing voice and value that and not be scared of it like I was when I was growing up and going through college and all the things. I never liked writing. And so I want that for my kids. And so far, this is a big yes. This is definitely working for us for writing. As for grammar and vocabulary, which I'm lumping together because a lot of times they come in like a combined program. So we'll just start here, actually. The Good and the Beautiful, level 4 for my daughter, we were using, like I said. And the one aspect of this program I still like is the grammar. I think she's getting it. I guess we'll see as she kind of keeps going through it. But she learns a lot of the like homonyms, and she's learning some sentence diagramming and all the different types of words. And so I feel like it's been really good. And it is independent, and I'm okay with that. And so this is working. It's working just fine. As for my son, this was the part of the logic of English that I still really like. I do. I really like how it teaches grammar. I really like how it teaches vocabulary. Again, it was just too big of a program to hold and carry. And since I knew spelling was my focus for that child, I was able to just let this go or put it down. And for him, he's doing Grammar Ace and Wordly Wise, which I forgot to bring over those resources. But I got them through Sonlight. They were associated with the level D language arts, or they're recommended. It's like an optional resource if you want to work on grammar. But like, for instance, there is some grammar work within the dictation. And so it's all kind of in there. And I'm fine with that for now. We don't need a grammar heavy year. We don't need a vocab heavy year. He's doing fine. And those two resources are actually quite helpful for me in our homeschool schedule because it gives him a little bit of independent work. When say I need to work with my first graders for just a bit, he has those independent subjects that he can do while he waits for me to do like spelling or something like that. All right, the other thing, language arts wise, is readers. You guys, I love readers. So for my twins, we're doing Abeka. We love these. They're just so perfectly tied to the program. You can't really do the program without the readers. You might be able to use these readers as kind of extra readers for a different program, but it is really geared to Abeka. Like, it has all the special sounds. It reviews everything you're using. It's very thorough. It's exactly what I need. So readers working, as well as the Sonlight readers. You guys, as always, the Sonlight readers and read alouds are some of my favorite aspects of Sonlight. Their book selection, so good. But we're currently on Homeschool, and I love that it's pulling the history into their readers. Not just the read alouds, but their readers. Now, I've had a little bit of pushback from my kids because this has been the first year where the books aren't as fun, but that's okay because this year I decided to instigate a veto rule. So my son was disliking this book. Okay, my daughter likes it just fine. She's fine. As long as I tell her to slow down and read it slowly, she's fine. She can answer all the questions. My son just really disliked it. So I told him he could have one veto book a year and he could replace it with anything else. And so he did. He chose like one of our old Sonlight summer readers, like Ollie Cross or something like that. And I'm having him read it on a similar schedule as when she's going to finish this book. He'll finish that one and she'll get a veto as well. But I really value these books and I really value that they get to read them themselves. And even though my daughter's doing language arts for her writing, she's fine to read the readers, and I would rather keep her reading the readers associated with our history. And since she's capable and it's not like bogging her down, it's not over her head, it works out really, really well. So that's all working. And then we have like handwriting and typing. We've been using Danielian handwriting. I might have a flip through somewhere for years. It's just the handwriting program I've chosen and all my kids are using it. My son is in the last book and he kind of was getting over it. And so I said, as long as your handwriting stays legible, I don't really care. And he's been working a lot on his typing. So he types out all of his writing anyway. And he's about to finish the last level of the Good and the Beautiful typing program. So those are all working, no biggie. And so those were individual subjects, like for my different kids and the programs that are working, not working, hoping to not have any more changes going into the spring semester. But it's nice to kind of review why we struggled or why those programs really didn't work for us, because it really does help me solidify the fact that I like the choices we currently have. Now, as for our like family subjects or our together subjects, those are so good. So we are doing History, Bible, Literature, D. So that's from Sonlight, Intro to American History, as well as for the twins, it's now level A, but it's Exploring American History. And we're only doing weeks 1 through 18 of this program in order to make it align with the 2 years of this program. And so these are the two programs we're doing for history. And Sonlight's history, the HBLs, they're just great. I don't know what else to say. So that's definitely in the working category. Now this year, I was trying to bring in some extra resources from Build Your Library Level 5. Now, we did for a bit. It worked, it didn't work. It was kind of twofold. One, it was just a little too much to lift all of those resources, which makes sense. I probably would need to like drop something out of Sonlight to add something from Build Your Library. But they were also just a bit too advanced, and it had to do with age ranges. So the level 5 for Build Your Library was geared for 10 to 12-year-olds as opposed to the level D, which is more, I think 9 to 12-year-olds. And I agree. As I was reading some of those resources, they were just a bit much. And I definitely had to paraphrase and pull some stuff out. It was just too high of a level. And I feel like that's a somewhat common in Build Your Library, which is just fine because I'm able to pull what resources I want from whatever levels I want. But if we were in Build Your Library still, we would probably be in level 4, not level 5. And so I could definitely feel that advancement. So that was more of a just okay, not really working program, but you'll see maybe come spring semester, I'm going to be adding a little bit more of the read alouds in. Stay tuned for that. We'll see. That's kind of what I'm processing right now. And the other thing we were doing for history, it was more geography. It was like estates and capitals. That's been going okay. It's just a challenge to find the time for it. I found the resources on Teachers Pay Teachers, and I was trying to do it myself. And maybe I just need to add it to my IG, my Sonlight Instructor's Guide, so I can check it off. I'm not quite sure what my mental block is, but it's just hard to find the time for it, and I don't seem to do it. And so that's another subject where I'm like, I kind of dropped the ball on that one. And then science. Science, we're doing Sonlight Science. We're doing level D and level A. We love Sonlight Science. The experiments were so good until I really became overwhelmed and burnt out in like November, December-ish, and those kind of dropped off. But we're picking them back up, and it's okay. I really view these ages as just exposure, delight, things like that. So we do what we can, but we definitely always do the reading because I love the books. And so science is working as well. And then we have Bible. Bible, I feel like was just okay. There was some struggling with that one. It came down to a couple of the resources. There was the Native American Prayer Guide through Sonlight, as well as the Apologetics book. They were just too much. It was written towards the adult. We started it. We like it. I like it. The problem is it just mostly went over the kid's head unless I did a lot to bring it down. And I couldn't always do that. It was too heavy of a lift, so I stopped doing that. And then as for the like Native American Prayer Guide, I think it's good. I've just found that I struggle with resources that are just like, let me tell you about this tribe this week, this tribe this week, this tribe this week. It was the same with Windows on the World. It's like, let me tell you about this country and then this country and then this country. And there was no tie-in, there was no story, there was no rhyme or reason. And so everything just kind of like left their brains and left my brain for that matter. We'd be like, do you remember talking about Cambodia? Or do you remember talking about this Native American tribe? And they're like, no. I was like, that was only 2 weeks ago. They're like, I kind of get confused with all of them. And I'm like, I get it. And so just honestly felt like it wasn't worth my time. But the hard thing is I really value that information. I'm just not sure how to bring that forward. I mean, a lot of things happen. Good, like for instance, books like this, I think do help, as well as like The Sign of the Beaver and some other ones that we have read. I feel like they almost move the ball further than say a just like steady on tribe. Those aspects of Bible we dropped. And then we were struggling with our scripture memory because I realized I really wanted to be able to remember some of the scripture from previous years, but they have already forgotten it. So I was trying to kind of set up the system to bring it all back, but it was already gone. And so they were just overwhelmed. So I decided the spring semester is I'm just going to start from scratch. We're going to start with new verses, and then we're going to put those in my box because I have a memory work box. I didn't ever make a video, but I've talked a lot about it and shown it in my day in the life for the HBLD. So I'll link that video if anybody's interested in it. But I'm just going to start from scratch. I'm going to kind of accept the loss of all of those verses we worked on over the past couple years as just gone. If you don't review them, they're gone. And that's just so disappointing. And it doesn't mean that it's worthless. It just feels that way at times. And so we're just going to start from where we're at, and we're going to start the process of building our box. And hopefully we can review in a more like structured way. So that's the plan. Is that it? History, Bible, literature. So we're currently reading Johnny Tremaine. Again, it's working. We love Sonlight read alouds. I am trying to decide for next year if I'm going to only read Sonlight read alouds, because we've gotten to the point where these books are so big that we can't add a lot of extra. We can in the evenings a bit. We were able to read Winged Feather Saga. We've read Harry Potter. We're currently reading, you guys, I'm so excited. We're currently reading The Mysterious Benedict Society. I've read that book. I really like it. The kids are liking it so far. But my thing is I want to be able to maybe sub some of those fun books in the place of some of the scheduled books, but then I like look at my list of scheduled read alouds and I'm like, no, we can't miss this. And this has been really good. And there's not enough time for all the books I want to read my kids is really what it comes down to. So anyway, those are some of the things I'm thinking and assessing for either the spring semester or the 2025-2026 school year, which it feels crazy to start thinking about that. So those are the different programs we're using, what's working, what's not working, what we switched out. it's been good. It's been good to reflect on it instead of just kind of bury it in the fall and just move on from there, which is what I wanted to do. It's been good to kind of look back on it all and assess what happened, assess how we can do things better in the future, and just cut myself a little slack, to be honest. So let me know down below your thoughts on any of these programs. I'd love to hear from you guys, but also I'd love to hear what maybe was your most successful program from the fall semester and maybe what you thought would work but just didn't for your family for whatever reason. And so please start the conversation down below because I am always so very interested in that. But if you have nothing you necessarily want to say, maybe leave me a stack of books emoji because I have so many books in front of me, so many different programs which I just loved or didn't love and chatted about in this video. So that's what I have. I hope you guys are well. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you in the next homeschool video. All right, guys, take care. Bye.